everyone. Welcome to our monthly podcast. I'm Galen Rogers Lonergan, and this is Legal Answers Just for Real Estate. I'm excited to have our new associate here at the Lonergan Law Firm, Charlene Brown, join us for today. How are you doing, Charlene?
Doing okay.
Well,
Can't
great.
complain.
Fantastic. So, we're going to continue today to talk about owner finance. This will probably be our last part of our owner finance series. And so we're going to talk about some legal and title issues relating to owner finance. And Charlene, why don't you just start off?
Of course, Attorney Rogers. Could you please give us an overview of what owner finance is and how it differs legally from a traditional mortgage or a bank finance sale?
Absolutely. Owner finance is actually, there's a lot of advantages to owner finance. It differs, as most of you that have ever applied for a mortgage on a home know, there's a lot of paperwork you have to do. There's a lot of back and forth and a lot of expense associated with that. With owner finance, essentially the seller is willing to act as the bank on that transaction. So you're not dealing with mortgage brokers, mortgage lenders, banks, whatnot. You're dealing with your seller. That's one very big difference. That makes it, number one, less expensive to get into your house. Number two, quicker for you to be able to get into a house, and less costly overall.
Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
From a legal standpoint, what are the most important documents that must be in place to properly structure an owner finance sale?
Well, obviously, just like any other financing, you have to have a promissory note, a deed of trust, and one additional documents I would say always would be to include servicing documents so that the loan is serviced by a third party. If it happens to be a wrap owner finance, which we've talked about that before on our podcast, wrap owner finance is where your seller actually has an existing loan with the mortgage company in place and it's not going to be paid off in connection with your purchase. Instead, the seller's going to wrap that loan, wrap your new loan around that loan. And if that's the case, then there's got to be certain disclosures, legal disclosures and whatnot to be done. Authorization, and there also needs to be critical in that instance, authorization documents signed by the seller so that you as the buyer can contact the mortgage company.
My next question would be, what are some of the biggest mistakes you have seen sellers of or buyers make in an owner finance transaction?
Well, I hate to say it, but I've seen a lot of mistakes over the last 25 years on closing these type transactions. And the biggest mistake I'm going to tell you is number one, not dealing with knowledgeable people about owner finance, either not having a lawyer to represent you on the owner finance, you're trying to close your transaction at a title company that knows nothing about owner finance, and especially any wrap owner finance. I've gotten so many deals at the last minute because the prior title company didn't have a clue how to do it and finally just threw up their hands and said, we can't do it. Not using a servicer is a big no-no. That creates more problems than you can imagine. When I first started doing owner finance closings, I didn't require the parties to have a servicer. Now, if I'm going to close any transaction regarding owner finance, there's going to be a servicer. And that is because they're a third party, neutral party, that the payments from the buyer get made to the servicer directly. The servicer then will pay the seller, who is the lender, and if it's a wrap, they will pay the wrap lender what they're due. So no one has to worry about whether payments are being made, and nobody has to worry about getting a surprise when there's a default because payments haven't been being made. And not, another issue is not collecting enough down payment. Because unfortunately, things don't always work out 100% the way they're supposed to. And unfortunately, there are times when you do have to go back and if there's a default and, foreclose on the property. So you need enough of a cushion to cover your carry cost if you have to, um, foreclose and not have somebody making monthly payments for a while, and also to pay your fees, your legal fees, your title fees for reselling the property. And another one I would say is allowing the buyer to prepare as a seller. Problem for a seller is a lot of sellers are not knowledgeable about owner finance, and the buyer says, "Oh, I know all about it. We'll prepare all the docs. We'll take care of everything." And that's a recipe for the seller not getting what they thought they were going to get. So those are just a few of the problems that I have seen come up on a finance transaction.
I'm happy you brought that up. Do you have any issues that you feel like could have been addressed with your clients to address some of those issues?
Well, if they call me soon enough, I could definitely address all of them with them. And I've even put a stop to some transactions that they were trying to close somewhere else, until we had a chance to visit with the seller and make sure they understood exactly what they were getting into. We've corrected several problems in the midst of it. Like I said, we always get payments set up with the servicer. We, when someone has defaulted on a finance loan and the seller did not require servicer, that's one of the requirements we have. If the seller's willing to go forward with them, then it has to immediately be set up with the servicer. It's unfortunate they also may have to threaten foreclosure in order to get their buyer's attention as well.
My next question would be, can you share a story or an example of a deal that went wrong because the legal side wasn't handled properly?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a lot of clients that think that they can just do it themselves, not knowledgeable enough to know what all has to be done. And so, one of the deals I was involved in, the poor seller, he just got taken for a ride. And it wasn't until they just refused to make payments that he reached out to me as an attorney. And so I had to negotiate with the buyers. We threatened foreclosure. We had to go through court hearings. They tried to stop us from foreclosing. We finally got them to agree to pay because they finally realized that he was serious. It's anyone that either side, buyer or seller, that is not doesn't really understand what's happening, the chances of there being problems are huge, huge. And all it takes, it's all it takes is a little consultation with someone that is knowledgeable about it, a lawyer. There's some real estate agents that are very knowledgeable, but I would mostly recommend a lawyer. Um, um, that just spending a little bit of money to talk with them to make sure you're covered on what you're expecting can make a huge difference and save you a lot of money, as well as you can potentially get into legal problems as well for not complying with the laws of Texas and nationally. If you do you're a seller that does a lot of owner finance, you know that there are laws that require certain disclosures and whatnot. But new, one-off, someone that's just trying to do one owner finance, trying to sell their old home, something like that, they don't know what the laws are, and they don't know what they haven't done in order to comply with the law. So we've done we've had a lot of different, some of them are goofy issues arise, but generally speaking, we're able to resolve them to everyone's satisfaction.
Thank you for sharing that story. Now, may you give us an example of how you corrected the problem?
Well, we just put a stop to it and we reviewed all the documentation and made sure it was modified to correctly deal with the legal issues as well as the regulatory issues as well as the payment issues that so that we made sure a servicer got involved that covered everything so that payments were timely being made and the seller did not the servicer would handle all of the disclosures, all of the annual disclosures required to the buyer as far as interest they would have paid, escrow they would have paid, all of that. That's once that is all done and the paperwork is made correct, then generally the transactions can go forward without issue.
My next question would be, what should real estate investors know before offering owner finance as a part of their strategy?
Okay, well, the biggest thing there is to know your numbers. If you know, if you have analyzed the transaction of what you're looking to get, then you can see clearly that a lot of the time that over time you're going to make more money by doing an owner finance transaction than by leasing or by just out and out selling. But knowing the numbers is critical. And I previously on this series regarding owner finance, we had an expert come talk with us, Ann Christensen, and she has a whole program that is available to anyone out there wanting to do owner finance as an investment strategy. Excuse me, that you can plug in the numbers and it'll show you, her program then will show you exactly how much you're going to make over 1 year, 5 year, 10 year. And as a result, Ms. Christensen, her main investment strategy is owner finance because she has found that based upon reviewing those numbers, she's going to make more money long term, which her investments are geared towards retirement, but she's going to make more money long term doing owner finance. So that's the number one most important thing is before you ever even consider signing a contract for owner finance is to run the numbers as a seller. Prepare the documents yourself. Have your counsel prepare the documents. Don't allow a buyer to prepare the documents. That's, obviously you can see the downfall that could arise from that. And I had that very issue arise where my poor seller that finally came to me and he showed me the documents, he just got hosed. I'm sorry, that was the best way to describe it. And he didn't know any better. And once he signed all the documents, he was pretty much stuck with it as long as they made the payments. So he did not make anywhere near what he should have made on that transaction. And also understand the costs involved if you have to foreclose. Like I said, figure out, I always advise a 10% at least down payment, if not more. But try to advise my clients on what the cost could be of their cost to carry and their foreclosure costs.
Thank you. Now, if someone listening wants to use owner finance safely, what are your top 3 legal tips or precautions to take before they sign anything?
Top 3 would be deal with knowledgeable people. Know your numbers, as we talked about just previously, and have a third party service the transaction. If you deal with knowledgeable people, consult an attorney. It's false economy to try to do it yourself. In the long run, it won't save you money, it'll cost you money. And you could potentially get involved in litigation because you didn't do everything absolutely correctly according to the regulations and laws. And like I said, know your numbers so you know that you're going to make what you are hoping to make and what you're needing to make. And again, have a servicer that's going to take care of making sure all the payments have been made. Those would be the top three precautions I would do. And let me also say, though, having said all of this, owner finance is a great strategy. It's a great strategy, whether it's direct, the seller has no lien on the property and they just, they just want to sell it directly. That's a great investment strategy for a seller that doesn't want to be a landlord, doesn't want to have to go fix the toilet in the middle of the night, or the air conditioner goes out at 100-degree weather. If you're a landlord, you're going to be doing that. If you're a lender on an owner finance, you're just taking the money in the mailbox. It's called mailbox money. You're not having to do all that. Also, it's still a great strategy if it's a wrap owner finance. There's a few more risks involved. There's a few more steps that need to be taken. But as long as you're dealing with knowledgeable people that know how to minimize those risks, it's still a great strategy. I've had people do those owner finance, buy properties owner finance, even though they intended to sell them in short order. They buy it owner finance to save the money on the closing costs, save the time, go rehab the property, and then sell it and pay off the owner finance and an underlying. So, or it's also an inexpensive way, even with the wrap, to get into a house and be a landlord. You can buy it owner finance and then turn around and lease it out to have the tenant pay the owner finance payment. So, like I said, I've been doing these transactions probably 20 plus years now, and they have a lot of positives to them, and I would love to, if I can ever assist anyone with that, that would be excellent. So,
Oh, go ahead. Well, I thank you, Attorney Galen, for your time because I know it's very valuable.
well, thank you, Charlene. We are so excited to have you with the firm. Anyone that calls the firm, they probably will get a chance to talk with Charlene. She's very excited to be dealing with real estate. And so that, I guess, is it for our podcast today. And we look forward to seeing you all again in the future.